Okay, so we're going to be talking about our professional development manual. We used a program called OneNote from Microsoft. It's a great program. It helps you organize information. It's really easy to display if you're doing it on an overhead projector or with a digital projector, which is the one that we ended up requesting for this particular project. It can also be stored on a SkyDrive, which is what we're using in this particular situation, so we're going to show you how to access that. So if you're on Google, you're going to go to skydrive.live.com. Now we're already logged in, but in the real situation you would have OneNote on your computer. OneNote is not available for Mac, so this would have to be used in a Windows situation, PC. So we're going to walk you through our final project just so you have an idea about how everything's set up and how it would look. So initially we have our table of contents, so it's pretty straightforward. We're going over all of the Microsoft applications, so we have Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, OneNote. We have all of our evaluations and everything that's included in the PD manual. We have our title page and overview. So we did the Microsoft Office Suite for 2010 version. Basically we just found that there was a need for some of these basic skills within the workforce, and there are a lot of things that people do know how to do, but there's also things that we discovered that they needed help on. So thus the needs assessment.
So with the needs assessment, particularly in my situation where the teachers at my school only have access to Office 2003, so then there's the question of, okay, well, how much different is 2010, and would they know, or rather would they feel like they know how to operate stuff within 2010? And we created an online survey through SurveyMonkey and kicked it out to all the teachers and got some responses back, and it turns out that through our needs assessment that there is a brand new component to 2010 that is not available in 2003, namely OneNote. And so you can see the chart right here, or rather the table right here, that shows that a lot of people have no clue how to do any of the following things in OneNote simply because they don't have access to it, they don't know. So this screamed professional development at us. And then another thing that came up that was really interesting was stuff within Outlook. Whereas people would say, oh yeah, I've used Outlook all the time, I use it on a daily basis, we send emails, yet looking at the numbers, not everybody considers themselves proficient or expert at these functions within Outlook. And then oddly enough, Excel also has similar numbers. So automatically we're seeing that even though one could say everybody knows Microsoft Office, we're learning that that's not actually the case. And so we've learned that there actually is a need for this professional development.
Then we went on to the tools and resources that we chose for this class. It's really straightforward. We feel like everybody in the class really should have their own computer because it's going to help them tailor the learning experience and what they're focusing on and practicing and things like that to exactly what they're doing in their own classroom. So they're not having to switch off with another teacher. They're a little bit more focused. I think it's much more efficient, but you can make it work with two people on a computer. We requested that you have a projection system. Now you can use a typical projector, an overhead projector, and then use a computer linked to that. We suggested that you actually use an interactive projector, which can be controlled on the wall, so you're not going to be losing people in the shuffle of, where's the mouse, where did you click. It makes it much more clear, what you're trying to focus on within the screen, as opposed, so you can actually point to something and follow the traditional sight rules of, okay, follow the teacher's hand motions, as opposed to trying to follow a tiny white mouse. So here's some information on the projector that we suggested. It's a Hitachi program. For the tools and resources, we also included some resources for the person who is doing it by giving them a demo on YouTube about how to use it. There's the user's manual available here. the product specifications that they can give to whichever school they're working with. Obviously, this is a great product for things much beyond just this project, so it may be a great way to present it as a possible new tool for the school.
So given the fact that most computer lab classrooms are set up, however they're already set up and there's not much changing we could do, we still suggest a room setup just in case there happens to be a situation where we could actually set up the room any way we want to. Ideally, you would want everybody seated at a computer, maybe either individually or in pairs, and have the giant screen or board up front visible from everybody. So, you know, usual rules apply. Make sure everybody can see what's going on up front.
Okay.
So the general timeline/agenda we've built for this runs pretty much the same for all 5 modules. So for the first 5 minutes, the facilitator will be introducing the quote brand new features of the suite, the ribbon, the tabs up at the top, which are all different from the 2003 version. Even little things like mousing over a part of the ribbon to see what the tooltip says about it, and then subsequently hitting F1 to get more help about it. So you'll see how this plays out into the next activity, which is the scavenger hunt. So we decided that instead of a traditional lecture format, instead of telling the teachers what to do and have them, you know, play monkey see, monkey do, we will put them in the actual situation that they would probably want their students to be in. So we let them loose, so to speak. We give them a scavenger hunt activity, which is a sheet of different functions. Let's say I'll just say Word, for example, and they will go around and literally try to find how to do these things in Word, learning as they go along. They're allowed to help each other. The whole bit is very student-centered. The facilitator's job is not to lecture; it's to kind of circulate around, make sure everybody's on task, give little hints and help here and there. After that amount of time has passed, then of course we still don't want the facilitator to run the show. We want the quote students to do so. So then we have the students come up, /teachers, and present what they've learned to the rest of the group. It might happen that there may be a certain feature of one of the components that nobody has found. That's when the facilitator would step in and say, okay, well, here's how you'd find this feature. Then after that's said and done, it's still not enough, because we want to know, okay, now that you've taught us all this stuff, how are we going to use it with our students? Again, we don't want the facilitator to lead a lecture on this. We want the ideas to come from the crowd. So we want the teachers to reflect and come up with ways on how they could incorporate their specific office program with their students, whether directly in a lesson or having the students use it on their own or what have you. And then for the last 5 minutes, just as a closing assessment, we want to see if they actually did learn anything, if they've improved their skills based on what they've told us from the initial needs assessment. So we provide a post-survey, again through SurveyMonkey, that will basically ask them how they feel about doing the exact features they had to scavenge for in the first place. And of course the idea is, now that they've seen it and they know how to do it, the results will be much more on the expert/proficient end versus the I have no clue how end.
Additionally, we're going to go through the products that we've created to hand out. So at the end of this, they will not only they'll have actually a printout that's basically an answer sheet to the scavenger hunt that they can keep as a resource moving forward, give them a good foundation on the product, kind of give them a place to start if they want to continue to investigate more or take more advanced classes. So this is our Word section.
Now here's one of the disadvantages of seeing this on the SkyDrive versus actually on the hard drive, is that we have embedded the actual file resource for this agenda into this part of our notebook. You'll see where it says file in a box right there. If this were on your hard drive and the actual file itself was on your hard drive, it would be a direct link, but we can't display this item because it's not on the SkyDrive, it's on another computer somewhere. So that's what that means. But if you did upload the file to SkyDrive, I'm assuming we should be able to access it from there. So that's why we don't have a separate handouts section. The handouts are already built into each module as you go along.
So here's the scavenger hunt that we've created for Word. Here's the questions. There's instructions initially. So find and apply a template, create a new document, open a document, save document. Yet again, while this does sound pretty straightforward, it is really good to kind of re-emphasize it, make sure, you know, you can say you can do it, but can you write down the instructions on how to do it? Talking about tracking changes on editing, which can be a big thing for teachers. It's a great learning tool to communicate with your students. Then you'll...
Actually, I did want to interject a little bit here. Just to highlight what these modules are for, the teachers themselves would volunteer for a module. So it's not like every teacher is going to go through Word training. And a lot of teachers are going to see this and go, oh, I already know how to print a document. I already know how to save. This specifically would be targeted for the teachers who, through our needs assessment survey, have said, I do not know how to operate within Word to a satisfactory level. Please teach me. So on the one hand, these functions seem somewhat basic, but on the other hand, they're not basic to somebody who doesn't know what they're doing in the first place.
Exactly. And then at the end, they'll be given this handout that they can take. You can either email it, do it in an email format so that they have it as an electronic document, but you can also pass it out as well. These resources are pulled off of, or used, some of them are used from Microsoft Word or MicrosoftOffice.com. So these are specifically presented by Microsoft as the best way to go about doing each one of these individual items. So it gives you the instructions, so you know, if maybe you didn't remember something from the class, you can go to the exact question and find the answer to it. So Microsoft has also created us with some great screenshots of some parts of the ribbon, so you get a visual of what it looks like, so you can compare it to exactly what's on your screen. So this is a really great resource. Yet again, Word is pretty basic for a lot of people, but once you get into Excel, there are a lot of things, you know, on our worksheet that
you'll see it's kind of the same format. All 5 of our modules run the same way. It's all a scavenger hunt activity. It's all the certain features that we feel should be, you know, necessary or what have you. So do you know how to create a new workbook? Can you enter data in a worksheet? Formatting your numbers, you know, things like that. And it runs the same for all 5 modules. You've got your scavenger hunt sheet, you give the teachers amount of time to find what they can find, and then comes the actual answer sheet. And like Lisa said, you can have it electronically sent. It'll save money on photocopy costs. And this is also handy for the facilitator to have, because there might be that one feature that no one has been able to find. And so it's the facilitator's job to say, okay, here's how you would find this. Everybody write it down. And they would, you know, lead the way on the interactive projector and show the teachers what to do.
So it's the same for Outlook, PowerPoint, and OneNote. And then we have our evaluation outline on how we're going to evaluate the professional development.
Okay, so the immediate assessment was that post-survey that I mentioned earlier. Each component of Office has its own post-survey, and again, you could have this electronically sent to the teachers to say, here, click this and do it, or if you want to go old school, you write it on the board and they can type it in and do it, you know, from the computers. Then the assessment of your integration is actually, it's both the short and long term. So what we wanted to do is, okay, first of all, we got the PD going, and then the day's over. Yay, fine, and they did the post survey. Well, give them a few weeks, give them a certain amount of time to incorporate and implement the very ideas that they came up with within the PD as far as how they're going to use it with their students. So after a couple weeks, maybe a month, maybe mid-semester, you hand this to them. And you could throw this as a hard copy, you can chuck it out in an email, but basically it's a reflection on, you know, what they've done. Have they integrated it successfully with their students? And on top of just responding to this, it's going to be a response/presentation. So they're going to have to present this to the rest of either their department or maybe as a whole group, or you can mix and match it any way you want to. Basically, we want a reporting of how did you do it, how did you do it, how did you do it, so teachers just don't have their own perspective. They actually collaborate and work together and learn from each other. And it doesn't hurt for the math teacher to learn something that's happening in an English class, because they might pick up an idea they've never thought of before and then use it in their math class. So it's all cool that everybody's sharing with everybody else.
Yeah, because all different kinds of teachers are going to approach the challenge completely differently. So this is a great opportunity to learn from other people on your staff. So the evaluation actual rubric, this is for the short and the long-term assessments. I'll pull down on this here. So for the content of reflection and the presentation, we said for a needs improvement score, there would be no summary at all, or the summary would only have, no analysis of the success or improvement of the office program integration, all the way to an outstanding, which would have a summary and an analysis of successful integration of the office program with their students, as well as an analysis of how office program integration could be improved upon in the future. So we don't want them to just do it now. We want to continue the success of this type of program and inspire the next set of professional development moving forward. So, and then the similar for the level of integration. Either they totally blew this off and didn't do it at all, or they have a student-centered integration of the office program. Somewhere in the middle would be, evidence that there's a teacher-centered integration where, they've used it in their own organization or to prepare materials for their students, but haven't really brought the students in on the actual use of the program. So we have different levels here, and, it can kind of help them gauge where they are and where we want to encourage them to go. For the future of the office program, professional development, they're not really going to give us anything. I feel like everybody, if you put a little thought into it, can come up with something. So if you're really not giving us anything, you need a little help. So we want ideas and also a desire to lead that professional development. It's great if you want to have all these wonderful ideas all about everything that we should do, but are you willing to say, hey, this is how I think we should implement it, let me jump in there and help. There's only so many staff. Usually there's not going to be a trainer designated for every single school, so we all need to chip in and help each other learn how to use this new technology. And once you get a series of these going, people are going to be more and more likely to chip in and kind of, it makes it a little bit more fun when you're not just learning from somebody up there talking, or learning from one of your peers or one of your friends or somebody you know. It makes it a little bit more fun. Then with our references, we just had a couple of items that we looked at, obviously as well, Microsoft. So I think that that's it, and we had a really great time actually figuring this out, and then actually using the program itself, OneNote, to create this document, which I think is a really great way to organize it and present it. So, we kind of worked the program as we were creating this project. So
that was actually a lot on my part too, because Lisa had the great idea of, hey, let's build our PD manual in OneNote, and I'm like, okay, so I have to learn OneNote, PD manual on OneNote, and I still have to learn it myself, which was actually great constructivist stuff right there for you teachers out there.
You've considered using it in your own class.
And I actually have considered using it in my own class, yeah, if we could only get OneNote. But that's a different story.
So that's our presentation. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Ciao.